Welcome to the Ask Lee segment of my channel, and if you have any questions regarding magic, spirituality, witchcraft, demonology, the occult, whatever it may be, then all you have to do is drop it into the comments of any of the Ask Lee videos and I will add it to the queue. And I do these every Wednesday, so just look out for your questions. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Right, welcome back. So the first question is from Kathy Pryor, 4281. What kind of beings exist in 1D, 2D, 4D, and 5D, etc.? How many dimensions are there? Alright, so this gets quite kind of scientific, actually, which is way beyond my comprehension. But to kind of talk about it basically, when we talk about beings in the first and second dimension, I don't think we can really say they are beings as we would perceive beings. It's mostly used to describe a concept. But if we were to look at that, we have to go back to the 0 dimension, which would be a point. The first dimension would then be a line, because what we're doing is we've got a point and then it creates a line, so it has length. Then the second dimension would then have width, so then we would have a shape, a square, triangle, a circle, something which has length and width. Okay, so that's 2 dimensions. Then the third dimension brings in depth or height, so that creates a third dimension. So then we have a point, we have a length, we have a width, and we have a height. Okay. Then we would have the fourth dimension, which is then time. So starting there, if we have an object, I'm going to have to hold up my vape. Okay, so this is a 3-dimensional object. It has length, it has width, and it has height. Okay, but it doesn't move. It can't move by itself. It can't move from this position to this position. We can. Animals can. So in a sense, technically, we are 4-dimensional beings because we can move within time and space. Okay. When we get to the 5th dimension, the 5th dimension is actually is a concept that a lot of people are still exploring, but in some theories it's considered to be microscopic. It's often related to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and sometimes it's called the quantum field or the quantum plane, quantum realm, things like that. In older terminology, we may call it the astral plane or the astral realm. So 5-dimensional beings can move from point to point without moving through time, as we need to move through time. So to get from point A to point B, we would have to take a period of time to get there. Depending on what vehicle we're using, whether it's our feet, whether it's a car, whether it's a plane, that time varies, but still need that time to get from point A to point B. Being in the 5th dimension can be in 2 points simultaneously, actually, in multiple points simultaneously. And this is often why we talk of the gods and other spirits. The question often comes up of how is it that multiple people can be talking to the same spirit at the same time? It's because they exist in all space and time. Space and time isn't really a thing. We go through our lives in linear time, but in terms of mysticism, there is no time, there is no dimension, or space at least. everything happens in the same moment, which I've mentioned in the past. But a first dimensional being would therefore be able to be in multiple places simultaneously and at different points and in the same time, what we consider to be time. So how many dimensions are there? We usually talk about the 5 dimensions. There are theories of 10 dimensions, and then it just loops back again. It's interesting theories, but you can go and check it out online. I've forgotten the YouTube channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link, should be up here somewhere, to a video that we did on Into the Wildwood live about time and dimensions, which helps to answer some of this as well. And Kai goes quite in depth into this and knows quite a lot of the theory behind it. So I'll put that link in the description and up here. It should be in this corner up here. I don't know. Every time I record this, I'm not sure if it's this corner or this corner. It's one of the corners. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next question. This one is from HondaMan6918. Been studying witchcraft and the occult for about 4 years now. Been chasing the dragon, as it were. Started with Wiccan, moved to Golden Dawn, chaos magic, and traditional witchcraft, all in hopes of connecting with experiences truly that may cement or reinforce the journey. Been sadly disappointed so far. Any thoughts? Lots. I'm just not sure how to voice or put them into words, really. It's quite possible that you are trying to find a singular truth. And I think this is why a lot of people, it's why I started going down all these paths, was to find the truth of the universe, which is a singular truth, and there is no singular truth. And as you carry on going down the path and taking the journey, you come to realize that there are many, many, many truths. They may be subjective truths, they may not be absolute truths, but they are still truths. One person's belief is no less valid than another person's belief. And if we had to think of there being an absolute singular truth, that would mean that nobody is right. Because even if 2 people believe the same concepts, they are going to have their own interpretation of those concepts, and it might be so slight and so different that you cannot recognize the difference, but they are still different. So which one of those 2 is the absolute truth? This is why I say there is no absolute truth in this particular concept. Is because everybody's concept is different, everybody's perspective is different, everybody's worldview is different. And it becomes very personal. So, you may have been trying to find that absolute singular truth, and there isn't one. So what you need to do is just carry on the journey. Just continue the journey and just gather as much information as you can and create your own worldview, and that becomes your truth. And that worldview is going to change, that truth is going to change. So again, it's not an absolute truth, it can't be. We keep changing, we keep developing, we keep growing, we keep adding things, subtracting things, so that we continue to build our own path, build our own worldview, and build our own truth. So, you may have gone after one particular path like Wicca or Golden Dawn, chaos magic, traditional witchcraft, as you said. You may have gone down one of those paths hoping to find that singular truth, and you didn't find it, so you tried another path, you didn't find it there, etc., 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 and it carries on over and over again. And it's because there is no singular truth. They are all true. And what we need to do is pick out, not haphazardly, as I said, spoken about in the past, not eclectically, but, as you've been down each path, you've come to understand it, you've come to know it. and through that knowing you can then syncretize the various parts that make up your own worldview. Okay. And even if you do end up going down one path, as I said, your perception and your understanding of it is not going to be exactly the same as somebody else's who is walking exactly the same path. It's just that your experience is different. You can sort of imagine it like two people on a nature walk, and they are walking side by side on a path. Their experience is going to be completely different, but they're still walking on the same path in nature, experiencing the same birds, the same animals, the same insects, the same trees, the same flowers, plants, rocks, earth, all of it. They're still experiencing that they're walking in an environment which is exactly the same, but their experiences are going to be different. Okay, so I think that might be where the difficulty is coming in. I know I only say that because that's basically what happened to me. Alright, I'm not sure I can add much to that. Let me try and go back. There we go. Okay, so the next one, this is a bit of a long one. It's from Boxer Training 1017. Starts off highly. Is all this always necessary every time you want to work with an entity? I am genuinely curious. I have used Wiccan circles in the past, but honestly not every time. Isn't just smudging your space with the intention of removing negative energy enough? Thank you for reading. You then went on to say, to be honest, I'm not really following any tradition. I like to pick and choose whatever resonates with me. I did some Wiccan spells in the past, as well as some other stuff that wasn't Wiccan. I definitely don't do ceremonial magic, and I am not quite familiar with the Golden Dawn, although I heard about it. About casting Wiccan circles, I did sometimes and sometimes called quarters, which I found to be a very pleasant experience. I guess calling the quarters is kind of an equivalent of calling the demonic elementals. Could you maybe do an Ask Me video about this? Also, could you share with us your short banishing ritual in the morning? Okay. Let's start with, is all this always necessary every time you want to work with an entity? No, not particularly, not really. You don't have to cast a circle every time you want to work with an entity. It can simply be sitting down at an altar, giving, lighting some incense and a candle, offering something like water, maybe a cup of tea or something like that, and just meditating. That's all you need to do. When you do that, you don't need to cast a circle. Some people will, and some people will do a very simple type of casting, which is the creation of a circle around you and just visualization of it. One I've used often in the past is just pushing your hands into your 8th chakra and then expanding it around you, which creates like a bubble, a sphere around you, which acts as a protective space, a protective circle. So you can do that, but it's not absolutely necessary. When we have a look at the demonic circle with using the 5 elemental kings, that is quite often to balance the space that you're in. There may be a particular energy that's been in that space which has put things a bit off kilter. It's kind of messed with the energies and whatnot. So you might want to bring balance back to that space. So we call in the elemental kings to therefore balance the space elementally. You may do LBRP, a banishing rite, to expel any negative energies, but also raise your own vibration, which again brings a balance to the space that you're working in, but also a balance within yourself, within your body, within your being. So there's various reasons why we would cast a circle or do something similar to casting a circle, but you don't have to do it every time you want to talk to an entity. Then going on to, isn't just smudging your space with the intention of removing negative energy enough? It can be. If you take some frankincense on a charcoal block and just waft the smoke around the space, it can definitely help to clear the space um, and to raise the vibration of the space. So there's many ways you can do this. You can use sound just from your own mouth to clear a space. If you are trained in Reiki, if you're attuned to Reiki, you can use the Reiki symbols and you project them at the four walls of a room. So many ways to actually clear the space and to also balance the space in order to do your working. But it's not necessary. If you feel your space is balanced, it feels nice, it feels comfortable, then just go ahead and just talk to the entity or do a meditation or whatever it may be. Now, in regards to the rest of that, what's interesting is that Wicca is actually ceremonial magic. When you are calling the quarters, you're calling the watchtowers, which is very much based in, well, Freemasonry to begin with, but was adopted by the Golden Dawn and various other magical orders after that. But that's where it all comes from with the Wiccan rituals, it's casting a circle in a Wiccan fashion. So you actually have done ceremonial magic, you just didn't know it. The banishing ritual that I do in the morning, I might talk about that, do a demonstration. It's actually part of, I'm creating Temple of the Horned Serpent at the moment, so it's part of that material. Kind of private at the moment because it's still being developed, but it'll probably launch to the public at some stage, so probably see it at that point anyway. Okay, so that answers that one, I think. All right, so let's go on to the next one, which is from Key. It's Kii 33333. Hi Lee, for the next episode of Ask Lee, do you happen to know anything about blood magic, and is it true that if you offer blood to a demon, they have control over you? Okay, there's a lot of ways you can practice blood magic. I mean, blood is part of our body. It contains our essence. It has our DNA, and it's considered to sustain life. So it's, of all the bodily, can't really just say fluids, because we can also include hair and nails and even clothes when we're doing, we're getting tag locks. But blood is considered one of the most potent fluids of the body, or pieces. Can't think of the word. I think you know what I'm talking about though. So to use blood is quite. It's actually a good offering. It's not just blood itself, but it's also the pain you go through. I mean, even pricking your finger can be quite painful. So, just that sacrifice becomes or creates a particular energy. But if you are going to use blood in spell work, don't use it when this working is connected to somebody else, unless of course you want to be tied to them. And this obviously goes for spirits as well. You did ask, and is it true that if you offer blood to a demon, they have control over you? They don't have control over you, but it does strengthen a relationship. And this is why, if you're working with, it doesn't matter if it's a demon or god, goddess, angel, whatever spirit it is, if you are going to offer blood, only do that when you're at a particular point where you have built a relationship, where you have a strong connection with that spirit. Then offer blood. There are situations where you are going to do particular workings, and it may be a long-term working, which could go on for 6 months, a year, 18 months, whatever it is, where you could offer blood every day to spirits that you may not have worked with before, but that is part of a particular advanced working that you'll be doing. So you've got a bit more of a foothold on what you're actually offering. But when it comes to the spirits, make sure you've got a good relationship with them, a strong relationship with them. It's somebody you want to be, or you want to continue being connected to, and therefore then an offering of blood. It kind of ties your energies together a lot stronger, as it would if you were doing some kind of blood magic with a person, maybe a lover. It will tie the energies of both of you together a lot stronger than what it was before, because it's blood, because it's life-sustaining. You know, it brings you into a closer bond. Let's put it that way. I'm not really sure there's much more I can talk about in regards to your question, actually. Don't use, you know, if you think of something like the witch bottle, which is a form of protection magic, there's mention of taking the bottle, putting in pins and nails and all sharp things and whatnot. This is to trap a spirit or the energy of another witch that is attacking you, and basically cut them to pieces, type of thing, you know. So you would take all of those sharp objects, you would put them into the bottle, and then you would put your own urine in, but that's because it's a waste product. When we're talking about blood, it's not a waste product, it is life. So you don't want to put something like blood into such a spell, because you're putting life into the spell, whereas you want to take away from whatever's attacking you. You want to remove that force and remove that energy. So, you know, it would be counter. I have seen mention of people talking about, you know, creation of witch bottles and put in your hair and your nails and blood and semen and what have you. And I would suggest only putting urine in such a spell working. So, you know, if you want to decrease an energy, blood definitely wouldn't be used. If you want to increase an energy, like creation of a servitor, for instance, you want to sustain its life, you want to build up its energy, blood would be a great form of energy, because it contains life force, it contains chi. So, you know, offering blood to a servitor or a familiar, which is why a lot of the old stories of witches were, they were said to offer blood to their familiars. So, you know, that type of thing. It's the sustaining of life that you're trying to achieve, or the increase of energy for something. So that's really what blood is used for in magic itself. But no, a demon definitely wouldn't have control over you. I don't think a demon would want to have control over you. You know, you can't think of any reason why they would want to. If you're being respectful to them, they're going to be respectful back. So, you know, control would be counter to that. But you can create a much stronger bond with a spirit by offering your blood to them, because it's life force. So you're offering your life force as energy for them. So, yeah. All right. So that's it for this week. I'll see you next time. Have a good one for now. Cheers. Bye-bye.